Hi, and welcome to Connect with Carla B. This afternoon, I'm sitting in a new park that's on the intersection of 9th and 22nd Street. And, things work out how they work out because I'm actually going to introduce you to a dynamic woman. I will call her a historian too, because when it comes to political history, this woman is the best that ever did it. But I'm excited that this is the location because she has so much history right here. So it worked out just the way it worked out. We're just sitting on a nice park bench in this new park. I think it's called Deuces Park or something. Mm-hmm. But events are already happening here. But I want to introduce you to Rene Flowers. And Rene, I asked all my guests to introduce themselves the way they would and then I pick somebody who is like the person that they most admire.
Okay.
Like who's somebody you most admire?
I most admire my mom.
Okay, so if your mom, that's a good one. If your mom were to introduce you to everyone else, what would be important for everyone to know? Like if your mom were to introduce you, what would she say?
My mother would say that of all of her children, I'm the one who was probably the person who spoke up the most, the smallest in stature, because they used to call me Twinkie, if you could believe it. I was rather thin, but I was always vocal. And she taught me, she and my father, about the difference in speaking versus speaking to be heard. And when it is appropriate to share, and when you should think about what it is that you want to say before you share. So in other words, just making your words count. But my nickname was Poochie Doochie. I'm telling on myself. And that's what they called me because I was thin. I was really thin. But that was it, really. They always said I had a mouth on me. And my dad said that I would be an attorney. I'd make a good attorney. But I'm on the other side. I'm an elected official. So if my mom had to introduce me, that is what I think she'd say.
And you know what's interesting? When I walked up on the event today, I said, man, this mic system isn't that good. And then you get on the mic system and somehow I could hear it all the way in the back. So you know how to work a system. So let me see. Your first introduction to politics was on city council?
Yes.
Or was it even before that?
Well, actually, it was when Judge Frank White, who was Attorney Frank White at the time, he was also a civil rights attorney right here in South St Petersburg. And he wanted to run for judge. And so he's a distant relative. I call him uncle, but you know how you have cousins and they're just way too old to call you cousin.
Right. Yep.
And so my first job, along with my sisters and brothers, was to run around Jordan Park in South St. Pete and put these flyers that had been made on regular construction paper with, if you remember the old press where you would put the foil around the drum and put ink on it and run it. And so that was my first introduction. And he was victorious in his election, and he retired at age 72, which is a mandatory retirement age. And he oversaw civil court and some criminal cases in downtown St. Pete, the courthouse right across from City Hall.
Wow, who knew? And he wasn't even the first.
No, he wasn't the first. You had a number of other attorneys that came before him, especially when you're talking about Morris Milton and you're talking about Frank Peterman's father, and so many others that actually came before him. They had their private practices, as he did as well, and you could imagine mostly African Americans were their customers. But he had the honor and privilege of running for office and becoming a judge, and he retired as a judge.
So then tell us, how did it happen that you decided to run for city council?
Well, it was Mr. Ernest Filial. Actually, we're sitting right here on 22nd Street. His photography studio is where, Carla, your shop used to be when you sold your African paintings and attire. It was called Mahogany Studios. He took pictures for the Weekly Challenger. When Mr. Johnson was alive, he took wedding pictures, family reunion. If it was something going on in the African American community, Mr. Filial was was shooting it. And he was a photography teacher at what we called then Votech, which is now Pinellas Technical College. So when I bought my home, I contacted him because we didn't have a park close by. I would have to drive the kids all the way to Child's Park, and there was no way for them to just walk because they were all small. So I contacted him, and I went to the neighborhood association meeting that was held at Galilee Missionary Baptist Church. He introduced me to Susie Ahawk and so many other people, and Mike Dove, and he said, instead of complaining, what are you going to do about it? And he said, I'm working with a group in Child's Park, and we are trying to get money, private money, JWB money, and city money. So why don't you come out to some of the meetings? And so I went to a meeting. I took my kids, and we had a wonderful time there, hearing and meeting people. And I had a chance to introduce my request for a park. It ended up being a passive park, which means, just swings and a slide and a jungle gym. It wasn't all of, basketball and all of that. But it ended up being a passive park on the other side of First Avenue. So we were able to do that. And then I got involved with the Child's Park Rec Center staff. And at the time, Steve, former city council member Steve
Cornell,
he was the recreation director. He came after Bob. And so we worked on putting karate in there, computer room, redid the center.
And all of this, and you weren't...
I wasn't elected. I wasn't elected yet.
Okay.
And so the group that formed ended up being CPYD Child's Park Youth Development. And that's how the Rattlers was formed underneath that, getting money from different entities. Sean King, who played for the Bucks at the time, gave us money to help with the concession stands. It was just wonderful. The pool that came into Child's Park, it just was wonderful. And so he said to me, look, I'm not going to run anymore. You've been working, I've been prepping you. So what are you going to do? And so I ran for office.
You came in after Steve was on city council while you were on city council.
Steve Cornell wasn't on council when I was on council. Steve came after me.
After, okay.
Steve came after me.
You're talking about the other.
Yeah, okay, I didn't win my seat in city council until 1999.
So how many times did you run?
2 terms.
2 times.
I ran the first time for 4 years, and then the community blessed me. I didn't have anyone to oppose me for my second term. And so I was unchallenged.
But you won the first time you ran.
Yes, I did. I ran against Marva Denard.
I know.
I ran against Marva Denard. They called her Miss Hat.
Yes.
And that was a tough race. I mean, I was 31. I had 3 kids, just bought a house. I volunteered in the community, but I didn't have name recognition like she did. And I won with between 73 and 78% of the vote. It was in between there. I can't remember the exact number right now, but it was hefty. And it gave me an opportunity to just be thankful that the community saw something in me as I talked about my platform. And so my platform then was housing, youth development, and economic development. And we've seen a lot of things happen. We were able to save and restore the Royal Theater, which is now the Boys and Girls Club. That's how that happened. The building that's behind you, that used to be the Suncoast World Liquors. It now holds Parker Financial Services, Gloria Campbell's Financial Services, and the office for Deuces Live. We restored the Manhattan Casino at the time when I served on council. It was a shell of a building. It was falling apart, but I didn't want it to die. We were able to save Mercy Hospital. We couldn't save the whole facility, but that front part for its historic value. Hope 6 for Jordan Park, renovating that when Daryl Arians was the housing authority manager. So I had a chance to work on a lot with my colleagues, talking to my colleagues about how important it was for this whole strip and this community. And they partnered and supported, and I couldn't be more grateful and more thankful.
And I remember when we brought Basha Jordan to the first time to the Woodson, and you had more history about Jordan. You were teaching about Jordan Park, and he was new to our community. So he was learning in the process, but I was learning all of this from you and understanding that this woman who, I don't think you ever used it as a handicap. I was raised in Jordan Park. It's a badge. I was raised in Jordan Park. There's so many amazing people that have come out of Jordan Park and have gone on to do incredible things. But why? So then city council, then 2 terms, then school board.
school board for 2 terms. I actually had just finished managing a few African American candidates, and Mr. Lou Williams was one of them. He came up through the ranks of Pinellas County Schools. He was a teacher. He was an area superintendent. He was a assistant principal, a principal, and he had retired, and his desire was to become a school board member. And so he asked me if I would manage his campaign, and I did. And praise God, we won. It was a tough little battle there, but we won. And he was doing really well because he had all the historical value and perception of Black education in the community, even when the school boards were separate. There was a school board for the Black community and one for the Caucasian community. He went in for a simple procedure, and I called the hospital. I called his daughter, just checking to see how he was doing.
Yeah.
And my daughter and I were headed to their house to take some food so that when they got home, they'd have dinner there. And that's when his daughter told me that he passed. He didn't make it out of surgery. And I was absolutely devastated because Miss Arthurine and Brandon and Brandy, they all embraced me like a part of the family. He would fry fish on Fridays and invite me over. And even once he won, he would call, Renee, what do you think about this? Or, how should I handle this and whatnot? So I said to a couple of people in the community, you guys find somebody that you want to take his place and I'll manage them for free. Wow. My company, Unique Agenda, LLC, I said, I'll manage them and I won't charge you.
I was going to ask you, because, as long as I've known you, I've always known you to be involved in winning campaigns, and I know you to be a complete and utter boss when it comes to politics. Like, if you want to learn the ins and outs, the beginning to the end of politics, for those of you who feel like I don't do politics, I would encourage you, if ever you hear Rene Flowers is speaking or doing something where she's speaking about it, she really does a good from beginning to end, how we got here, why we're here, what's important, the history of the Republican and Democratic Party and how the evolution therein.
Yes.
So that's when you decided to be like, okay, I guess looking around, looking to the left, looking to the. So wait, after city council, were you like, okay, I'm good?
Well, I wanted to run for something else, but I said I was not going to run against another African American.
Okay.
And I wanted to help more African Americans get elected.
Okay.
Because there's so much talent right here in our community, but sometimes they felt like I don't have the connections for the money. Maybe I don't have the name recognition or what have you. And so, I just want to encourage African Americans to run. And with Mr. Williams, I just thought that with his background, even though he had not been in politics, I thought the message that he could bring was phenomenal. And so after he passed away and I offered to manage someone, it was my brother-in-law, Watson Haynes, who said, well, we were looking at you. And I said, that wasn't the offer.
Right.
And so I wanted to talk to Miss Arthurine because I wanted to see how she felt about it and get her blessing. And I did. And so Glenn Gilzine was appointed to finish out the 6 months because he passed away only 2 years into his office. So we had to wait till another election cycle. But in the interim, the governor can appoint someone. So he appointed Glenn Gilzine at the time. And so when it came time to actually have an open race, I ran. And there were several of us, about 5 or 6 of us in the race. Corey Gibbons was in the race. Cassandra, who's with the NAACP, she was in the race.
Remembering this race.
Yeah. And then, of course, Glenn Gilzine. And so I ran, came out of the primary, and then he was my general election opponent, and I was successful in that. And served 2 4-year terms on the school board, was selected as chair for 2 consecutive terms by my colleagues, received the one of the educator supports of the year. I was one of 11, and flew up to Tennessee to get that award with Dr. Grego and Carol Cook. So that was absolutely wonderful. The district submitted my name, and as many other districts all over the nation, there were people from all over. But we were able to get some things done. That was during the failure factory time. And, a lot of that failure factory stuff happened even when I was in school. So it didn't matter that I wasn't there as an elected official when that happened. What mattered was I was elected now. And so I'm a part of what the solution would be going forward. Got my colleagues to support building a brand new Melrose Elementary. That is my pride and joy. When UPA left town 2 weeks before school started, which is now Midtown Academy.
Okay, yeah.
I got the district to, no, we're going to open up because it wasn't fair to the parents or the children. And 2 weeks before school started,
I remember reimagining.
Yep.
You were thinking, how do we reimagine?
Yes, and so now it's an art and culture school, and then working with Fairmount Park, putting a washer and dryer out there when I heard that some of the kids had some personal hygiene needs. So I purchased a washer dryer, brought all the detergent and everything there, and just tried to make sure I stayed in contact with the staff and the teachers. So, being a school board member isn't just policy. Yes, we vote on policy. But it is also about what are the needs before the kids even get to school, so that when they come, they are ready and prepared to sit down and start learning, and supporting the teachers, making sure that the students see persons that look like them in those classrooms.
I think what most people don't know is this entire time. So let's see, you have your own consulting firm, and then you've had a full-time job, job, that actually paid the bills.
Corporate trainer for Gulf Coast Jewish Family and Community Services. I served on their board for 11 years. And unfortunately, the executive director, Mike Bernstein, did commit suicide. And so nothing was missing out of the organization. But, organizations get nervous and they want to make sure that everything's right with their funding sources. And so I was asked to come on as one of the QI quality people, going through and just doing an internal review of various programs. And then I ended up being asked to be the corporate trainer. The trainer they had, he was leaving to go teach at a university, Kaiser University, as a matter of fact. And so I just, I shared with them that what I was doing in the community. I started creating training components for child welfare services for our refugee program. And it just grew from there. So there were 86 programs in 37 counties. So I traveled from Gainesville all the way down to Miami, training our staff, and I enjoyed it. And I worked there for a little over 11 years. The only reason I left, which was when I won my office for county commission, is because I had to focus on that. The county is huge, and Gulf Coast received a lot of money from the county, and I did not want to have to consistently recuse myself from votes, or have it where Gulf Coast couldn't even apply because I'm a county commissioner. So it was sad. I cried. I didn't want to leave, but I did resign my post with Gulf Coast, and I focused on being a county commissioner, but I still have my Unique Agenda LLC business. I managed Deborah Fick Sanders when she ran and won her office, and I've worked with several other candidates since then. Of course, you and I both supporting Brother John when he was going through the appointment process. And then just other candidates, working with and supporting Rick Kreisman when he ran for his second term, Mayor Welch, April Thanos in Gulfport. So I don't just limit myself to St. Pete.
I keep hearing this 4 to 8 year, and I know nobody has a crystal ball, but I keep hearing Rene Flowers as the first African American female mayor of our city. Is that in your sights? Like, if you were looking way down, would you say this is something?
I haven't thought about that. To be honest with you, I support Mayor Welch. I supported him, and I'm hoping he'll run for re-election. I'll support him then. I enjoy, and I came after him on the county. So he did a lot of good things and had a lot of things in place even before I got there. And now I just get to push it to the next step. We all know St. Pete is like no other community when it comes to elections.
We fickle.
And it's not about losing, because some people don't even remember I lost a race. I ran for county commission, and it was during the Tea Party time. Nancy Bostock was the Republican contender, and Darden Rice was the Democratic contender against me. And I managed to come out of the primary against Darden, and so I ran in the general. It was the same year that Barack Obama became president. So while I did not win my race, I celebrated that night at my victory party because I got to see him become president of the United States. So I felt defeat before, and it doesn't feel good that night, but over time you get over it. And that's actually when I made the decision. I didn't win, but I can help other people win. And I learned the value and the pathway through Ron Lowe and Lonnie Donaldson. So I don't want to go through this podcast without giving them credit. Lonnie Donaldson could tell you every single precinct there was in this county, and he could tell you the number, he could tell you the voters, he could tell you all of that. Ron Lowe was more of the strategist. They both worked on my city council campaign, but Ron Lowe could write a speech to make you move. Ron Lowe could pull facts and stuff. I mean, he had it right here.
Right.
He was a Caucasian gentleman, but he was a part of the civil rights movement. Lonnie Donaldson worked with the Weekly Challenger under Mr. Johnson and all of them. Precious, his wife, ended up running the kitchen for the Davis Bradley building. I believe she's still there. I see her from time to time in the community, but I have to give credit to those two when it came to teaching me how to manage a campaign, because while it is a campaign, there are different caveats that Black candidates have to be conscious of.
So, like, that's part of what your consulting arm help candidates with. I tell you, a day doesn't go past when somebody don't approach me talking about when are you, and I'm like, I love being able to lend support to people who that's their passion. It's not my passion. It's not what I aspire to do. And did you know way back when that you might have possibly gotten into politics, and you've stayed?
Actually, my dream was to become a lawyer. And, be successful in representing issues of the Black community. My degree, both my bachelor's is in organizational studies, my master's is in public administration. I'm working on my doctorate now, and I'll be done with that soon, and it's in public administration. So I did not start out to specifically say I'm going to run to be an elected official. However, my parents were very involved in politics, my mother, my father. And so it was always at my house. When there were riots at Dixie Hollins High School, the parents gathered at my house in Jordan Park at 195. We had a car. And so my parents were able to go pick the kids up if that needed to be done. Mr. and Mrs. Carmichael, who lived right next to us, they had a car. And so all of the strategizing on how to keep the kids safe and who was going to do the messaging with the schools, that was done in my kitchen. The children were upstairs, we were upstairs, but the adults were downstairs. So it was something that was always a part of our lives. And just like my children, Kaisha, Joshua, and Jeremy, neither one of them, some people have asked Kai about going into politics. They thought she'd actually run, but she said, no, I like helping, and I like helping my mom, but that's not where I want to be. Now, who knows? Remind me, change a few years from now. But that wasn't my thought. But now that I am here, I have loved every single moment of it. The high days, the low days. There's some days when I feel like I'm in it by myself. There are some days when I get so much love and support, like what was here today. There are some days where it's 960,000 people in this county. Probably 959,999 don't support what I'm gonna vote for, and I get that. But I have to look out for the whole county. Hispanics, Asians, African Americans. But yes, I do fight hard for communities of color because, we're playing catch up plus stay up. The concept, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Well, we stay ready, but we're always having to get ready because we're catching up to stay ahead.
What would you say to, I hear this all the time. I heard it today, as a matter of fact. Somebody asked a young woman to sign a petition. She said, I don't do politics. So, and I mean, I'm surprised after everything that we have and are continuing to experience that people still have this mindset. What would you say to someone who that's their mindset?
You don't have to do politics to get involved in social issues. Over 4 million African Americans did not vote in this last gubernatorial election. And I'm talking about people who were eligible to vote. So when you look at how the legislature had a super majority, which meant that Democrats could say whatever they wanted to say, they were going to be outvoted no matter what. So the things that were able to be passed, or the funding that came out of that, praise God for that. That was because some Republicans came on board and said, we're going to support this, but we need to tuck it in a bill that we're supporting. So for that person, all I want you to do is look at what happened with student loans. Biden and his federal policies forgave student loans. Do you know how many people that helped? Biden and his administration has the greatest economic recovery when you look at job growth. Even last month, the numbers that were out, they did not expect a trend upward at all. There was an 8% growth. When you look at education and the fact that we have more African Americans going to Harvard, Yale, schools that at one point may have had one or two. When you look at the number of HBCUs that are coming back around, did you know the state of North Carolina has the greatest number of HBCUs, and that is where a part of the heart of the Confederacy was. Yep. When you look at South Carolina, you look at Georgia and all the HBCUs that are there, and how children now are saying, I don't want to go to that school. I'm going to go to a school that's going to teach me what I need to know, but they're also going to teach me my heritage and my culture. When you look at the housing issue and the fact that I was able to get my colleagues to support a tenants' bill of rights, and we passed it countywide, and it took legislation from Tallahassee to now make that null and void. So if you don't get involved and help me, I can't help you. I can't help the conditions of our community.
I always say, help me, help you, help
yourself.
us.
Yeah.
So like, we should be here for the bigger us. Long after Renee is gone, Carla is gone, the impact has to be present. And in order for it to be present, we don't want Carla to be worn down and have nothing left, and Renee to be worn down and have nothing left, because if you come to the farm one day and you hear me say many hands, the kids immediately say make light work, because they know if we all do it together, it doesn't have to be the burden on any one person.
Right.
So you're convinced this is what you enjoy doing.
I enjoy doing, and if I never get elected to another office, I'm going to be involved in social and civic issues throughout the community and throughout the nation. Because I was blessed to be appointed by the president of the National Association of Counties on a national housing task force to create policy to submit to the Secretary of HUD for change. But the way I'm able to do that is because people in this community believe in me, and because I've been able to work with people to get some things done here, so it's recognized on a national level. Pinellas County and St. Pete are on the radar. When I travel, I was just in Dallas, Texas. Before I even stepped in the room, they knew who I was and who St. Pete was.
Wow.
That's because of the things that we're doing here are cutting edge. And so other people come in to look at what we're doing here to emulate elsewhere.
Right.
If you look at some of the bills and stuff that was passed and the $5 million that was denied for mental health services and gun violence, that's all because we're looking at how we could change our own community, educate our community, and get people to understand that mental health doesn't have to be a stigmatism.
No.
Embrace it, get help for it, recognize it, move on.
Yeah.
And yes, all of us go to a psychiatrist. We don't call it that, but if you go to your pastor to talk about your problems, you went to a psychiatrist. If I call you as my girlfriend and say, girl, let me tell you what my children did, I can't believe it. I'm going to a therapist. You're just not licensed, but you give me lived experience.
Yeah, don't isolate yourself.
Exactly.
How did we first connect, Renee? Do you remember when you first
I met you at the Carter.
Okay.
You were on the board for the Dr. Carter G. Woodson African American Museum, walking around with a camera.
Oh, wow.
And we had just opened there because I served on city council when I got Dara Arians to save that building. He said I can save and restore the building, but I don't have money to run it. And so the city started running it. And if you remember, Leon T. Middleton was the manager. But you were on the board of directors and you were taking pictures of the event there. And you said, come on, let me take a picture out on the sundress. You said, come on, let me take a picture. That's where I first met you at.
Oh, wow.
And then events after that in the community, different things that were held there, or events that were held here on the Deuces, or wherever something African-American or Black was going on, you were there.
So why do you pick up the phone when I call? Like, you never not pick up the phone. You never not. I've asked you to show up for the kids. You've shown up. Like, these kids were hounding you to bring them crabs. You went and got the crabs. You went and got them the crabs. Why? What is it about me that makes it so that when I call you, if I text you, you respond. If I call you, you answer. Like, what is that?
Yeah, well, I do it for you, and I try to do it for as many people as I can, because when I see the work that you're out here doing, if you're calling me, it's either because you found a stumbling block and you're trying to get over that hump. You've already exhausted whatever avenues you needed to exhaust before you reached out. Or it's like, hey, can you come do this? And when you're talking about the youth in the community, my heart is there as well. And so, they're always on TV about the things they're not doing right.
Right.
What about the things they are doing right? And so anyone who will, and I will say, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to say this, at personal financial sacrifice to yourself, and so when you get in this work, you take a reduction.
Yes, you do.
I mean, I could work at a corporation and make twice as much.
Yep.
But that's not what I want to do. And it's not even about the money. If it was about the money, I wouldn't have my own business. I would never have worked all the years that I've been an elected official. I do that because I want to give back to the community. I buy tables at events. I buy book bags and school supplies and all of that. So I see the work that you're doing, and you come and support other people. So you don't just say, can you come and help me at the youth farm? Can you come when you had your own shop? I love shopping with you. And then I do a Facebook Live and tell other people, come on and buy from Carla. Why would I want to order online when I got Carla either right here on 22nd or when you went to Maxi Mall? So I might as well spend my dollars with you, as we're doing now. Think pink, buy green, spend black. Buy black, spend green. So you've just always kind of been there, and you've always thought about other people, and you show up at other events. You encourage the youth that are volunteering and helping under you to also show up at other events. You're teaching them how to have a conversation and speak with people and let them know. You got a fish farm over there, and you're showing them sustainability, resiliency. If all else fails, you can grow your own food. And so, yes, when you call, like I said, it's because you've exhausted all other resources, or it's like, hey, can you help me do XYZ, which I don't mind. And then if I'm not available, but I can send someone or whatever, I try to do that. But that's why. And I do it for a number of other individuals as well. It's, like I said, 960,000 people in the county. I can't always get to everybody. I try. But I can't always get to everybody. But I think that when I say to you, Carla, I'm not able to make it, that I'm not just saying that. It's like, hey, girl, I already got
and it's like, I fully understand. But I just keep talking to people about the importance of connections, so they don't think that, Renee is helping Carla because they're part of some sorority. No, we're not sorority sisters. We didn't attend the same schools.
Right.
I wasn't born in St. Petersburg. It's just when you involve yourself in community, then it's not difficult to connect with like-minded people that care about the community. So it's as simple as that. Get involved, and then you don't have to feel like you have to call somebody for something, and 9 out of 10 call and figure out how you can help.
Exactly. Well, and it could be small. I mean, it could be something as simple as bringing a case of $3.95 water. It could be, can you just stand at the door and greet people? It doesn't always have to be money.
Nope,
and even if you could say, I could be there for 15 minutes. That's all I got. We'll take the 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
There it is. But we get to live in this beautiful community. We get to see progress. So while everybody else is figuring out what's not working, I really want to encourage people to stay the course, because I've been able to witness actionable, measurable change in our community. So it's not none of your work. None of the work we do is in vain.
Correct.
It would be very different if there weren't the Rene Flowers. So please continue. I know you do it for your grandkids also. Because if we see you, we see them. If we see you, like, your kids come up to me like I'm a second mama when they see me. Like, hey. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for taking time to sit and chat with us. My
pleasure. We are sitting where St. Chad's Funeral Home used to be.
This is where
he was an African American along with Creel. It was St. Chad's or Creel or McRae. Those were your three choices.
So this was
St. Chad's Funeral Home, and he became one of the main people that any police department would use if a person was in an accident and their body was unrecognizable.
Oh, really?
Sanchez was known for the plastic surgery on it. Oh my gosh.
He pulled it together. Yes. This was snatch when snatch wasn't
snatch
even a term.
Snatch it. And his son now has Sanchez a funeral home that's on 62nd where it kind of splits off at. He moved back here. He's open there. And then in front of us is where what we call the row houses. They were white, little, small row houses where after hours you could buy your adult beverage because all the liquor stores was closed. And then, of course, Geach's Barbecue up in there. So on Friday nights, all of this was active. All of this was active. And then, you know, my dad would take us in the station wagon and he'd back it in, open the back hatch and go to Snow Peak, order our chicken sandwiches, our gizzards, hot sauce and ketchup. And then he'd go across the street and gamble.
So the casino was a casino?
It was, upstairs was a dance hall.
Okay.
And downstairs, they had a couple of little businesses that were operating.
Okay.
And one of them was a gambling hall.
Because it's so funny. I thought about this because this was Manhattan Casino and Gulfport Casino. I'm like, were these casinos?
Not gambling, entertainment, the chitlin circuit.
Okay.
So when all of the musicians and stuff travel on that chitlin circuit, they were right here in St. Pete.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I hope that this conversation leaves you with a few bits and bites to chew on. Until next time.